Thank you, Lee, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As many of you know, I have been Dean of the Faculty of Music of the University of Toronto since January 2011, thus for about 10 months now. For the 10 years previous, 2001 to 2010, I was Dean of what is now the Schulich School of Music of McGill University, named in partial recognition of an initial $20 million gift from Seymour Schulich, and the chair of the board of Kermit, its Center for Interdisciplinary Research in Music, Media, and Technology. The McGill context remains important here, as I will explain shortly, because one of my central goals in returning to Toronto is to reaffirm its national leadership position and to create an international leadership profile for U of T and Toronto in music training and music research. Music today, in the context of the best research-intensive universities, is not what it used to be. To be sure, at U of T Music, we still have a core academic and artistic mission that encompasses the highest level of professional musical training for composers and performers, a quality that was amply apparent to all who attended the U of T campaign launch last Sunday evening with its 2-hour showcase of musical excellence. As musicians, it is, after all, our job to train the emotions, to move you, and, if you are willing to go along with us, to change the world. Boundless indeed. At U of T Music, we also display exceptional strength in practice-based and research-informed teaching in music education and boast a traditional cohort of excellent scholars in humanities research disciplines. Many of these people will, indeed must, play key roles in our next steps together, but we are also moving quickly to establish an ambitious program of innovative research where music crosses disciplinary borders to connect with medicine, science, engineering, management, law, and education. This evening's colloquy on music and health and medicine and its predecessor that took place at the beginning of this month that focused more on foundational aspects of music psychology and neuroscience constitutes an important step in building a dynamic collaboratory that can rapidly move us all to an international leadership position if we work together. By the time I left McGill in 2010, Kermit was the #1 ranked research center in Quebec in any discipline. Yes, any discipline. The only one with an A+ ranking in all its assessment categories, notably in the level of involvement from its student members. And it was the only research center with its operations jointly funded by Quebec's FQRSC Social Science and Humanities and FQRNT Science and Engineering Councils. The Schulich School of Music, subsequent to the advent of Kermit, saw its annual research income move from a paltry, though not atypical, $100,000 a year in 1999, which is roughly the current state of things at U of T Music, to over $4 million annually from all provincial and tri-council and other sources by 2010. This figure does not include several major Canada Foundation for Innovation grants as well. This may not seem like a huge amount of money by norms in other disciplines, but it did represent 80% of the funding directed to music-related research in Canada at that time, including several major first-time grants for new interdisciplinary domains, which brings us back to here, to tonight, and going forward. In a way parallel to the opportunity I found in Montreal that allowed Kermit to evolve from established strengths in music technology and neuroscience, the potential for Toronto lies in music and health, where we can build on the strong, though still rather scattered excellence found across the clinical rehab sector and rehab sectors, and on the current breadth and potential growth of their university and hospital-based research groups, including those in music. Tonight's level of response to our gathering initiative strongly confirms this intuition, indeed suggests the need to develop a network that can leverage and capitalize on existing strengths in music-related research at U of T, in the GTA, and surrounding areas by bridging several disciplines and institutions. The remarkable reality, in my view, is that by simply coordinating under one conceptual roof the dispersed pockets of excellence that are already present locally and regionally, and by moving quickly to seed common projects and to make a few strategic global contacts, we have the potential to move to a position of international prominence in a very short time. This will be a truly interdisciplinary project that crosses traditional disciplinary boundaries and builds new science and new medical, as well as new musical practice. It will develop and attract national and international HQP and has significant potential for technology transfer and commercialization as well. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, what's in it for me? My team is having enough trouble eking out its scarce existence and resources as in our current situation without putting efforts into exploring additional collaborations across vast stretches of interdisciplinary and interinstitutional space that are probably riddled with minefields and bureaucrats. Believe me, I understand, particularly as an inveterate minefield myself and as an occasional bureaucrat. I might suggest that one of the reasons you may be experiencing such challenges in your current situation became clear to me in my previous one. At McGill, when I approached medicine and science and engineering and other faculties about their interests in music and sound-related research, I got a lot of keen reaction and almost no initial uptake. You will never be someone else's priority. So I worked with the university to establish Kermit based on some existing critical mass in music and with a few external partners, and then hired physicists, electrical engineers, computer scientists, sound recording engineers, respirologists, neurocognitive scientists, etc., all working in music and sound on the music faculty. Within 3 years, there were a dozen additional complementary hires in other faculties. Put another way, music and sound-related research that takes place in a variety of medical, clinical, or in other cases scientific engineering disciplines is generally viewed as peripheral, either too difficult for quick return on research investment, which it is, but needn't always be, or too fuzzy for cogency, which it can be, but shouldn't. In many of these disciplines, one has to fight for relevance in the context of what I call traditional core or cure research imperatives. Music is rarely in the core of fundamental scientific research, except in some recent and really cool neuroscientific areas, and it is seldom in the cure zone of medical disease research where so much work today takes place at the molecular, genetic, or proteomic level. As a result, I would argue that it is only by establishing a research center focused in music and sound, which coordinates a broad range of interdisciplinary research around a newly created core, that we can leverage the resources needed to make significant progress in this emergent field. Music in medicine and health is, of course, not usually about cure or core, it's about care. It is about a wide variety of clinical and therapeutic interventions, many still in their incipient stages of scientific development, that can have transformative impact on patients with many different disorders in many different circumstances. It is therefore about an area of care which has transformative potential in the context of ever-rising health costs, aging as well as underprivileged populations, preventative as well as palliative needs. Tonight you will hear only a few short stories from our speakers on stage. At least as many other stakeholders and storytellers are present in the hall, where we are privileged to welcome many of the leading clinical researchers and therapeutic practitioners from throughout the GTA. I hope that you will all be stimulated by tonight's colloquy tales and will join with us in imagining together a future of innovation and leadership for music in health and medicine. To conclude, let me note that it is never easy to raise money for the arts, however excellent and appreciated. The kind of interdisciplinary work featured tonight is fairly new, but as I know from considerable personal experience, has much greater potential for funding success, both in research and in philanthropy, even in current contexts. At the same time, the really exciting aspect of this work is that we finally have the scientific and technological means to ask questions in the health domain that are actually interesting to musicians and valuable to society as a whole. Things that most of us have perhaps known intuitively for some time, but which are only now moving into the scientific light of day and into the boundless range of musical expression. We look forward to working with you in the times ahead. Thank you and enjoy the evening.